Kris Krohn here with Limitless TV, and I have our amazing special guest speaker again today, Marianne.
Hey guys.
And Marianne is here to actually help us answer a really difficult question, which is, how do you find forgiveness for your husband if he's had an affair? And this is going to be a hard one for some of our viewers, but I know also this is going to be super valuable for those of you that are searching. And today we have got the perfect guest mentor that can help you learn what your next steps are to finish fully processing and knowing how to move on with your life. So today's obviously a super sensitive subject, and feel really honored and privileged today that we have a chance to interview with the amazing Marianne, who has firsthand experience on what it's like to, how do you really forgive a husband when there's been an affair. And if you're watching this video, first of all, our hearts go out to you, because certainly not an easy situation. Unfortunately, it happens more than anyone would ever wish or hope. And I think today's intention, Marianne, is to see if we can share with our friends here today that are watching this video anything that might help them come to grips and help process and heal from a pretty deep hurt. Do you mind just starting off and sharing with us what happened in your situation?
That my situation was an evolution, and anyone that's watching, I know what it's like to be you right now. You're searching the internet, you're looking for answers, you're looking for, what do I do now that I know that this has happened? And if you're watching this video, again, our hearts do go out to you, because this is, for lack of a better word, just a really awful situation to be in. Mine was an evolution that said, I knew something was going on, and then it got worse, and then it got worse, and then it got worse. And in the realm of this arena, it's what's called D-Day, when everything crashes down on you and you're in the bottom, you're in the lowest of the lows, and you're without an idea of what to do next.
Yeah. What were the emotions that came up for you? Because I can only imagine the wide range of feelings, or anger, or hatred, or frustration, or despair. What was it like for you when D-Day hit?
D-Day, it comes in a bottle labeled betrayal, really. In this bottle, there's this whole mix of anger and frustration and the bitterest of sadness and neglect and sorrow, and what did I do wrong, and how could I change the situation? What am I lacking? Why did this happen? Is it my fault? Is it not? And if there's ever a roller coaster of emotions, this is it.
Wow. How long did you stay in that spot before you got to a place of knowing that it was time to shift?
Years.
Really?
If I'm going to be honest, it's years. We had that de-evolution, and that bottle, I just kept opening up, looking at it, feeling it, being it, and it came down to that point. If I'm going to be completely honest, it was multiple. It was multiple affairs. It was one this time, and then it got nastier that time, and it got nastier that time, and then finally the bottle is sitting there of betrayal, and I'm like, how much more of this can I take?
Yeah, and obviously this is something that creates separation, divorce. This ends relationships and marriages. You and your amazing husband today, you guys are actually married and thriving better than you ever have. Did you ever feel tempted just to want to leave or end it or be done?
I actually had an appointment with an attorney, a divorce attorney. I was just like you. I was looking online for, hope. And what you find online is so messed up. What you find online is so mixed up with positive, with negative, with husband bashing, with hope. You don't know what to feel, and you don't know what to do. And I was in that spot of just throwing up my hands and like, you know what? My marriage is over. It would never, no matter what happens, I've got to be done, because this is just too painful to keep partaking of. And I had an appointment with an attorney the next morning, and I had planned to have the conversation with my husband the night before.
So what changed? What was your turnaround point then? Why did things go in a different direction, and how did things even start to quote unquote work out?
Here's the biggest deal. If you're in this situation, you have got to decide what it is you want. Nobody gets married with this clause that says, I hope an affair happens. That just doesn't happen. No one intends to do that. When you get to that point, you have to say, okay, I have got to be done with this in no matter what, but then what? What are you opting into? Do you want to have a successful marriage? Do you want to have an amazing relationship? You've got to get crystal clear on what you want. When I did that, I did it from a space of total clarity after belief breakthrough. And then I went into a conversation with my husband and said, you know what? here's what I've got on the table. I've got this amazing marriage that I want to have. I want to have a beautiful life with you. I want to raise our family together. Here's what it's going to look like. We've got to have complete fidelity. We've got to be totally in love with each other. Complete open honesty, radical honesty for that matter. And we get to build a life of joy, and that's what I'm going to have no matter what. And here's the controversial thing. I asked him, do you want to play? And then it was up to him. I said, here's the rules of the game. If you want to play, that's great. If not, I love you and I'm going to move on.
Okay, so it came down to you knowing what would honor you so that you wouldn't have to feel betrayed, sabotaged, or stepped on, and you communicated that, and basically the ball got put in his court. Mm-hmm. So what ended up happening?
This was a really beautiful moment. I'll never forget being at that. We were at a diner. We had called and just met in this neutral location on my daughter's birthday. My parents are throwing her a party while we've got this marital turmoil going on. I laid it out all on the table, and I want to be very clear that it wasn't an ultimatum. It wasn't from trigger. I wasn't angry. I was just very clear on what I want my life to look like, full of peace and just contentment. And if you ask Anthony, he'll tell you he was shocked. He didn't know how to respond at first because suddenly in his mind it was no longer my fault. And he'd never said it out loud, but he had this idea if Marianne's not showing up, then I have permission to do X, Y, Z, and that just was totally false. And now he's in a spot where, wow, the ball is in my court. What am I going to do? And we sat there for a minute, and I just sat with no apprehension, no waiting for an answer, just calmly sitting in peace until he finally said, okay, that's what I want too, I'm in.
Okay. So now for the hard question, right? This is really what today's video is about, is forgiveness. Sounds like you both chose in, and that's led to an amazing outcome for where the two of you are today. I mean, I have so much fun hanging out with you and Anthony. You guys are just a blast to be with. You've got such a powerhouse marriage, and you're both a power couple. Like, you've really consecrated your hardship. But here's really the hard one. How did you find the ability to forgive him? How did you do it?
And I'm sure that's why most of the viewers are here with us today, is how. And the first is, before we go into the how, you got to ask why. And before you ask why, you got to know even what forgiveness is. There's so many misconceptions about what forgiveness is. Here's a few things that forgiveness is not. It's not permission. It's not condoning. It's not permission to do it in the future. It's not any of those things. And most of all, it's not even for the offender. And a lot of people get mixed up in that. They think that if I forgive him, that somehow does something for him. No. Forgiveness is for this. It's for me. It's for my heart. It's for my healing. It's for my journey. Withholding that is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. Forgiveness is for me. That's before I ever had that conversation with Anthony. I had to be in a space of forgiveness because that's how I got clarity. I had to be free of whatever pain and suffering someone else's choices had on my life. And here's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is peace. Forgiveness is wholeness. Forgiveness says, no matter what happens, I'm okay.
So if you listen to the words, I'm just going to share with you what I just heard Marianne say. She said, if you're at a place where there's so much bitterness in your heart and a lack of love or loathing or betrayal, and it's just mounting, the question is it hurting your spouse or is it hurting you? And I think what I heard you say was that as long as you're unwilling to forgive, it's equivalent to you ingesting your own poison, because now you're the one that gets hurt from your inability to forgive, even though they're the one that created the separation and the affair.
Exactly.
And some might consider that actually kind of harsh.
It's radical.
Truth to consider,
Yeah.
And yet you've been through it. So it's hard not to just see. And I love the clarity that you have on this concept of forgiveness, that it's a process for me to become good with me in my relation with the world, whether it's with my husband or my wife or whoever that is and whatever that looks like. What changed in you when you decided to forgive your husband?
I suddenly realized that no matter what relationship we or I went into, I'd be bringing the bricks from the old house. If I was ending my marriage, if I went through with that attorney's thing, and if I brought these nasty bricks I'm taking me to every relationship I go into. And if I go in with that bitterness, with that bottle of betrayal, then it's going to poison my next relationship. So I said, you know what? Yeah, our marriage as we know it is dead.
Yeah.
Let's make a new one. And how exciting that we get to build something so new and beautiful together and start over.
So I want to end with this idea and get your feedback on this, Marianne. Obviously, divorce might be right for some people's situations, and it might be a mistake for other people's situations. And I've often met people that feel regret years later after a divorce because they still have not found forgiveness, and it is now tainting their new relationships.
Exactly.
What advice would you give for the individual that's looking at what choice they should make in relation to this forgiveness, and what would your final bit of advice be?
You know, we say this a lot in Limitless Land and on Limitless TV. Breakthrough. Breakthrough is the ground from which clear decisions can be made. I can't know what's right for anyone. I can't know what's right for anyone else's given situation. But here's what I do know, is that there are marriages that are ending that could have been saved if people had just gotten clear first.
Wow. Well, friends, there's a link at the bottom of this video, and I'm inviting you, if you're in this situation or you know someone who is, or if you and your spouse are really struggling, probably one of the most empowering invitations that I can give is to get in your car, hop on a plane, and join us at one of our next 3-day Limitless events. It is the ultimate breakthrough experience to give you the tool of breakthrough so that whether you're dealing with an affair or whether you're dealing with self-confidence issues, whether you're trying to figure out how to upgrade other areas of your life, whatever you're struggling with, in the end, what I hear Marianne saying is we're really just struggling with our own problems. Even with the things others are doing to us, our reflection and our perception still is a problem. I always kind of word it this way, which is the person with the problem is the person with the problem. But the person with the problem is also the person with the solution. And if you're really a truth seeker looking for a solution, then click that link and come spend 3 days with us, having a life-changing breakthrough experience so you can produce some of the results that Marianne's been able to see in her life. Marianne, thank you so much for being on today. Thank you for being able to bridge such a difficult conversation and share your experience with all of us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Okay, love you, friends. We wish you the absolute best in figuring this out and finding that forgiveness, not for your spouse, but also to benefit you.